Welcome to the SJ Child Show. This episode is sponsored by Water and Body Basics. Visit 3440 South, 5600 West, West Valley City, Utah. Mention SJ Childs today.
I'm SJ Childs. Welcome to the SJ Childs Show. Today, our guest is Allison Bureau, and Allison is coming to us from Seattle, Washington. Is that right? Or Washington, maybe not in Seattle, but yes. So nice to have you here today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today. It's been a little while since we have talked last, so I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and your nonprofit, and let's talk about what you do and all the exciting stuff.
Okay. Well, as you know, you just said my name is Allison Bureau. I am a married mother of two. I run a nonprofit called The Idea Project. And the idea for where this came from really started when my oldest son, or my oldest child, Wyatt, started in kindergarten. He has Down syndrome. And when he started in kindergarten, the teacher had come to me and said, the kids don't understand why he has a toy. To the kids, he has a tablet for helping him speak. And the kids thought that, this is a toy, because to most kids that age, a tablet is really a toy because that's what they play video games on, and they watch little videos and things like that. And for Wyatt, that is how he speaks, because it's got an app on it that helps him communicate. And they just didn't understand, why does he leave the classroom with someone? Why does he have why does he have this toy? And how, why does he have a harder time talking? And so they were really not really including him so much in the class. And so I asked, can I come in and talk to the kids about Wyatt? And she thought it was a great idea. I went in and talked to the kids about Wyatt, showed them his tablet, how he uses his tablet, how it is his voice for him to help him communicate. And then just read them a book about a little boy with Down syndrome, how he looks a little bit different, but really is just the same. And I just kind of left it at that for that first year, because I was thinking, kindergartners, what are they really going to understand or absorb with that first year? And the teacher had said, after that, she's like, a couple of weeks later, she's like, that really did help. Fast forward to first grade, within the first month of school, the teacher came to me and said, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but Wyatt's being completely excluded, completely ignored at school by all his classmates. And as a parent, that's crushing,
devastating.
For any parent, but especially for a parent of a child with a disability, that's going to come. You just don't know when that's going to come. I didn't expect it to come at such a young age.
Yeah.
But again, I was like, since kindergarten, I had really started putting together this talk that I was going to do. And I thought it did so well in kindergarten, I'm really going to start researching what I can put together and based on their ages, what I can talk to them about not just Wyatt's disability, but disability in general, because I didn't want it just to be all about Wyatt. I wanted them to understand differences and disability, so that it would kind of be a more broad topic.
Yeah.
And so I asked the teacher, I said, would I be able to come into the classroom and talk to the kids and do an activity with them? And she said, I think that would be a great idea. So with the support of the school district and the administration, we went in I had a number of folks with me from the school district, went into the classroom. I did a talk about disability and differences. We talked about Wyatt. This time I had a video of Wyatt actually using his tablet, because the kids, again, didn't really, they weren't really talking with him with his tablet, so they didn't really know how he was using it. So the video showed how he communicates with his tablet. And we also had his tablet there so they could pass it around and see how it works. As well as talking and, all about differences and disability, and what is it, and what does it look like? What does it mean? Different types of disabilities, things like that. And then I showed another video of Wyatt doing everyday activities that they might not think he could do, different sports, things like that. So they could see he's just like you and me. Yeah. And sometimes, some activities might be a little bit harder for him, but he can still do those same things.
Yeah.
And then the one thing that he has a hard time with, obviously, because of the tablet, is his speech. Yeah. And so I wanted to do a speech activity, which I I got from his speech therapist, which is a very well-known activity, which is the marshmallow activity.
I love this.
It's the most well-known
Yeah.
activity. You have them place a large marshmallow on their tongue, push it to the roof of their mouth and hold it there. And instead of having them say like what their name is, you have them like say what they had for dinner the night before, or have them say something that they can
Unusual,
try and say something unusual, and then have the person next to them try and guess what it is that they're saying. So while holding the marshmallow to the roof of their mouth with their tongue. And you give them maybe 30, 45 seconds to do this, and then try and understand what the person's saying. First, I modeled it. They tried to understand what I was saying, and then I give them the chance to do that as well.
Yeah.
When they're done, then we talked about, well, was that easy or was that hard? And they're like, oh, that was hard. We're like, well, why was that so hard? And then they're talking, well, I couldn't use my lips, or I couldn't use this part of my mouth, or, then we get down to the nitty gritty of, I couldn't use my tongue. Yeah. Oh, okay, great. So that means you couldn't use your tongue, and that's very important when you're speaking. You're right. So someone who has a difficult time with speaking, like Wyatt, is because his tongue muscles are a little bit different. They're not as strong as yours and mine. And so it makes it very difficult for him to make the same sounds when talking like you and I do. And so it really gives them that full education of what it's like for someone with a disability. And then we bring it around and give them an example of what it would be like for them if they were in his shoes, which they've already kind of experienced. And then they can ask questions. But what was interesting about doing it that particular year is seeing the kids experience that for the first time. It was like seeing light bulbs go off in their heads.
Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
And it was truly amazing. After I completed the activity and I answered all their questions, I told the teacher, I said, just give it a few weeks. Let me know how it goes. Within a couple of weeks, she had emailed me. She said, you're not going to believe this, but not only are they not excluding him any longer, they're now fighting over who gets to sit with him at lunch.
He's the popular kid, yeah.
Who gets to play with him at recess, and who gets to help him and sit with him in class.
I love that.
It literally has not changed since first grade. He still has that same amount of support, if not more, ever since. He's now.
And what grade? Yeah. What grade
he is now a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing to see the amount of support and the kids that just love him and rally around him.
And he been able to stay in the same school district? So he has these same friends and people that he's been with?
Yeah, he's in the same school district. Even like last night, I just posted online last night, he's the equipment manager for the football and the basketball team.
Oh,
and last
great.
night was their final game, and the coach wanted him to suit up to play to make the first points of the game. Yeah. And he's the equipment manager for the freshman team. And so a lot of the JV and the varsity team showed up too to support him. Oh. So he got to do the first play of the game.
That's so special.
And it was so amazing. He was so happy and so excited. I think one, to play, but also just for the support of all of his friends. Sure. And those are the kids that have been with him the whole time. And he just loves and adores them, but you can see that they love and adore him too. But it's that inclusion piece and the empathy piece that they have, not just for him, but for others too. Yeah. You can see that the kids just truly get it too.
Yeah. So I love this. Yeah. Allison, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of both of you. That is just incredible. It's such an incredible, my husband and I came up with a really great quote to kind of go with our inclusion of our books and stuff. A little bit of knowledge turns fear into understanding. And that's all it takes. All it takes is to give these kids a little bit of education about these special needs that these kids have and how to support them. They don't want to bully. They don't want to be judgmental. They want to have friends. They all want to have understanding and love for one another. And it's us as adults, by giving such great examples, by modeling the correct behavior, that's how we teach our kids. Kids are 1/3 of our population and 100% of our future. These kids need knowledge, education, and examples.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And from that time I did that talk in first grade, I did it again in second grade. And it was that point where teachers started figuring out like, hey, the teachers and the PTA parents started noticing a difference in the other students, that it went from the kids in the special ed class were being ignored in the halls to all of a sudden students were fist bumping, high-fiving, knowing their names. And it was like a complete turnaround. And then teachers started asking if I could do talks in their classes.
Nice.
And there was a bullying incident in another class that wasn't Wyatt's class. It was another class that was an older class. I went in and did a talk in that class. And at that point, when the bullying incident went away completely, that was when the principal said, "Can you do the whole school?"
Wow.
And I said, yeah, I can, because over the course of a number of years, I'd been building a program that was based on all the data and all the research and everything I've been pulling together. I mean, Wyatt's seen every doctor, every therapist, as he's been growing, but also all of the age, the differences in age and whatnot, and everything I just been compiling and researching. I had been putting together this program thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if we could do this on a school level?
Yes.
And so from that point, I did my first entire school, and it went really well. So from that point on, it was, okay, how do I do this on a bigger scale?
Yeah.
And that's where I formed the 501c3 engine, just started word of mouth going that direction. And now we're where we are today.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And tell us a little bit about the organization and what it does in the community, and if people want to reach out, and where do they go to find it?
We do have a website, theideaproject.org. Perfect. And when we started out, we were just in Maple Valley, which we're 45 minutes outside of Seattle. That's where we're based at. And that's where I was starting to do our program, just in our Tahoma school district. And then I had other schools that were, in and around the Seattle area that were calling. And so I would then go do one-off schools here and there. And, the word slowly started to spread to where I was like, okay, I can't do all these schools by myself. So then I needed to hire and train some folks to help go and be presenters at school. And so I started doing that. And then the thought was, I want this to be bigger, because it's really making a huge impact. And we were doing lots of surveys and getting lots of data from schools and school districts and parents and students, and seeing that it was really working. The number of bullying incidents was going down. Yeah. And so what I had done was we had a number of organizations from Eastern Washington reaching out to us and saying, hey, can you come over to this direction? And so we did a test pilot over in Eastern Washington, and to see, is this going to work? Can we do it our way? And it went phenomenal. And so now we're all over the state of Washington.
That's great.
And then, since we've been all over Washington, then COVID hit. And so what we have been doing, because we were pretty much shut down with in-person stuff during COVID.
Yeah, sure.
So we kind of had to shift gears a little bit, kind of like everybody.
Yeah.
We started taking what we had and building a online program.
Reinventing the wheel.
Kind of reinventing the wheel. And because we've had a lot of schools calling us from across the United States. And so right before COVID hit, we've probably have had at least 12 different states reach out to us. Wow. And the biggest thing for them is not only trying to raise funds for the cost for us to travel there, and pay for the program, but it was like, how are we gonna do this? And so then COVID hit. So what we were trying to do is to make it a little bit more accessible. Our in-school program is very hands-on. The online program doesn't have any hands-on activity stations, but it gives a different look and feel for everything. So we wanted to have that version just for schools that aren't able to have us in person. Yeah. And so that's what we worked on creating during COVID. And so that's ready to launch for schools that aren't able to have us in person. Good. So we have that. The other thing that we've been doing, which we had a huge influx of folks requesting, is corporate training.
Oh, wonderful.
Which is really great, because I've wanted to do that for quite a while. I do a lot of teacher trainings. when schools can't fit in, having teachers come in the class with the students as they cycle through our program. We come back and we do the teacher training so the teachers know exactly what we do with the students. And we can go over that in a little bit. We do PTA trainings, we do community events, things like that.
That's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, we have lots of community events that we can do. And then we also, when we have organizations like Rotaries, Kiwanis, Lions Clubs, they always want to have, put us through your program. We want to see what it's all about.
Love that.
And so I love doing that. And so really that idea came about kind of with that, because we had a lot of business folks that were saying, hey, I would really love to have this at my company.
Yeah.
And so that's where that piece kind of took off. And we've done some trainings, some corporate trainings from that. So we have the corporate LLC side to help with the nonprofit side too.
I love that. And I like-minded folks, right? That's what we are. I've just recently in the last like 6 months to a year also created kind of a corporate autism training program for the exact same reason, to just, help get training out there and things. So I love the idea about the PTA and the teachers and things. So I might piggyback on your ideas there and, go into my schools in my neighborhood as well. I just think that that's wonderful. And they all need it and don't know it, right? Isn't that the way it is? They don't know it exists. They don't know that something so wonderful is there for the taking and for educating their students and employees like that. So that's wonderful. What kind of take me through kind of a training or a day of your a seminar process, how you do that.
Are you talking about school or corporate?
We talked a little bit about the school one. So tell me about the corporate one.
Okay, because the school and the corporate one are very, very different.
You don't have to put marshmallows in their mouth, probably.
We do actually have them do marshmallows too.
Oh, that's
good. The corporate ones are very customized. So it takes a lot of planning to go into the corporations because it's based on who their customer base is. Basically, we look at the company, who their customer base is, how their interactions are going to be. Are they going to be working with someone? Is it just their customer interactions? Is it someone on the team that they're going to be working with? Like, really, what is it that they're looking for?
Got it.
We give them the opportunity to request, are we looking for just an overall look at disability in general? Are they looking for specifics? Do you want to focus on certain areas of disability? Things like that. We give them the choice to kind of customize that piece of the program. And we do have a lot of corporations that will say, we really want to focus on this, or can you give us some background on these areas? We have some, folks that, have certain pieces of this in, part of their disability. We want to focus on that part, just to give some of their employees some background knowledge.
Yeah. And support those employees with that and their families and such. I like that.
Yeah. So we'll give them some background information, but really what we go in to do, we don't go in and say, here's your education of everything that you can know about Down syndrome or autism. That's not what we go in and do. We want them to we can go in and give them all the background information.
Yeah.
Because we want them to understand. But what we go in and do is we go in and have them experience what it's like to have that type of disability.
Wow.
And give them scenarios for, this is what, based on where, what they're doing in that job, or what that customer is going to experience walking in the door of your office, what they might experience with the lighting, or, the sounds or the smells, or the, all different things. And then we have tons of different activity stations that simulate all different experiences that we have them go through. And we give them very specific examples based on what we feel, once we've kind of gone through like what their company is, and what those experiences might be, or that someone might experience at that company, or, as they're walking in there or working at that company, we can go in and give them those very specific examples and have them go through those activity stations. And then we can, have them do a Q&A with us afterwards. The last one I just did went really well. They were like, oh, I never even really thought about that. That was a really good idea. I didn't even, that didn't even click with me about that piece. So yeah, I think there's different aspects that we don't all think about. And sometimes they can be things that are right in front of our face that we don't think about, that oftentimes
like the lights, for example,
they're just really easy to overlook.
Yeah, definitely. No, I love how you specialize it for people, because that's different. It's different than getting just a general idea of what Google has to say about, autism or Down syndrome, or here's the aspects that come along with it, but really delving into what, if it's like you said, if it's for a customer or if it's for a coworker or something. I think that that's so unique and very cool. Very great program.
Yeah, thanks.
Definitely.
And the schools are very different. Like the corporations, depends on the size of the company that we are at. It can take anywhere from 2 hours to 3-4 hours. It depends on how many people or how long they want us there. Things like that. When we're at a school, depending on the size of the school, we can be there for anywhere from 2 days to a week. We're never at a school for any longer than a week. And that's very specific. We start the schools off with grade-based assemblies. So it's usually 2 assemblies. You do K through 2nd and then 3rd through 5th. And after the assemblies, then we go doing the group sessions where you have each individual classroom come in for 45-50 minutes with you. They come in, they sit down, we talk about a little bit about what we learned in the assembly. We talk about what we're going to learn that day. They go through the activity stations, we time them. They come back and then we talk about the activity stations, what it is they experienced, what they meant. We give them examples of kind of bringing it full circle for them. And then we do a couple of group activities as well, answer questions, give them some little goodies, like things that they can take home to share with their parents. And then that group is done, and then the next class comes in. It takes a full week typically to do an entire school that way, but that hands-on approach is really the best approach to getting a child to really feel what it feels like to be in another person's shoes. And it's interesting when we do that, though. I have kids who are in high school that still remember when they were in elementary school, these stations that we did, every single station that
I was just going to ask you that. Like, what's the response from the parents or the kids or some of the special needs kids, in fact?
Oh my gosh, the parents love it. They love coming to help volunteer to run the stations. The kids love it. What's interesting, I have a lot of kiddos who have different types of disabilities that love to come and be a part of the group. Like, they come in with their classes and they go through the stations as well. And they love it. I have a number of examples, but one of my favorite ones is there was a little girl who came in and I was running the learning disability station, and she was very quiet and very shy. And I think it was her and 4 boys. And she was sitting there, and these boys were looking at this sheet of paper and they were like, this is not what it's like. This is not real. People can't read like this, because, the words were all jumbled or backwards. And they were like, people cannot read like this. This is crazy. No way. I think it was like a 4th grade class. And I was like, yeah, they can. I was like, you guys are 4th graders. You should be able to read this. Come on, hurry up. Everybody's getting ready to go to recess, right? Why is this taking you so long? Because you want them to feel like, anxious. And she started reading it, and they're kind of like looking at each other a little bit. And they're like, what? How can you read that? And she said, I have dyslexia.
This is what it's like. Of course, exactly.
This is what it's like for me. And they were like, oh my gosh, you're like a superhero. You can read that. And she went from being like super small and shy to super tall.
Oh, I love that.
And a big smile. And it was just, it like it's one of those moments that gives you chills, because certainly. You know that she was like, they get it now. I don't feel small. They know that, I can do this. And they know how hard that is. So it was pretty cool.
So special. I love that.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. The the other thing I was going to mention is pretty interesting. I have had a number of principals that will say, when we get done with the first year program, the next year we'll go back and we'll say, we always start the assembly with, do you guys remember the stations we did the year before? And the principals are like, they're not going to remember. They don't remember what they ate yesterday.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I know. They can name every activity station they did the year before. And he's like, or the principals are
it's
like,
meaningful.
What?
It's all value and meaningful.
It is. And I'll say, what's funny is the kids that are in high school, sometimes they'll come up to me and they'll say, hey, remember when you did this activity station when I was in elementary school? And they'll still remember the exact activity station and what we
did. And
you've
been with thousands of kids since then.
And I'm like, you're like a junior in high school.
That's so cool.
And you still remember it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So.
Oh, I think that's amazing. No, and it just attests to like I said, to the value and the meaningfulness of what you're doing, because these kids take this with them through their whole lives. We don't stop interacting with people when we get out of high school. It's just the beginning of interacting with even more types of people, right? And so it's all of these skills that we need to teach these early younger kids to take with them throughout their lives so that they can be supportive, so that if they have Down syndrome, autism, so that they can understand how to get the support, or even maybe be more comfortable sharing with their friends, hey, I didn't understand that joke. Can you help me understand that a little bit? Like we're kind of with, some of our kiddos doing that. Like if your friends know that you are on the spectrum and they say something you don't understand, just be a little brave and say, hey, that's something I'm not quite sure I understand that. And help me get that a little bit. And so it's so important for them to have that courage, to have that confidence to say, just like the little girl, to have that confidence to, oh, I can read this like that. That's so cool that was so empowering for her. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it absolutely starts teaching kids when they're young. And what's fascinating is kids just want to learn. They absolutely want to learn. And if you just give them that little bit of education, that student that they kind of shied away from, it's like, oh, that's just my friend, Wyatt, or so-and-so that might happen to use a tablet to speak, or that might be in a wheelchair, or that they're no longer strange or different.
Yeah.
They are just like them.
They're friends. Yeah.
They're their friends. And that's what's so empowering to see these kids. They're very accepting and very empathetic and very loving towards each other. They just want to understand. And once they understand, it's just normal.
Exactly.
And I think that's what a lot of times adults fear is kids won't be that accepting.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes seeing kids firsthand change their perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I am just so happy that we were able to connect today and do this episode with you, because I want everybody to be able to, find this program, turn it nationwide. We're going to keep you busy, Allison.
That's okay. I would love that.
I hope so too. The Idea Project. Tell me the website again.
It's theideaproject.org.
Perfect.
Yes.
Theideaproject.org. We'll have all the links down in the description and up here on the screen when we get to our processing part. And so, everything will be there for you guys to find and be able to get a hold of her. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
To have you here. And I look forward to keeping in touch and finding out how the sophomore year goes and onward, right? Excited to look forward to a graduation story someday. So,
yes, very much so. Thanks for having me. Good talking to you.
You too. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.